In this video, I want to share some Laravel tips. This is not a conventional programming tutorial video where I give hours of programming tutorials. You can find plenty of tutorials on YouTube, but I want to share some very interesting Laravel tips that you can use to make your web application more robust. So let's jump straight into the video. Before going into validation rules, I just want to briefly highlight what is validation. So what exactly is validation? So a validation is basically taking user input from a form. So for example, if I use this form, this is in my local server. So this is a form with an select input, like 3 options here are there, and when I submit the button, this user input data is sent to the server side. So when this data is in the server side, what validation does is basically validating this data accordingly. I want to focus on some validation rules, how you can process these user input data from the form in the client side. Okay, so if I go to the Laravel documentation in the validation, and if I go to the available validation rules, here, so this is the part in the documentation where it says available validation rules. So as you can see, there are a lot of validation rules here. So I'll in this video I'll focus on some of the validation rules that are very interesting and very handy. I'll focus on the first validation rule that I will focus on is image, or a type of file which is image. So if I go to image, it says the file under validation must be an image. So any user input from the form in the user end or the client side, this has to be an image. So if I give a demo here, let's say this is the file, so I remove the select option and just take a file option. So let's say input file. Okay, so let's say this is just an image. Okay, let's give an ID and the class, let's say form control. So this is a file. So if I see this, if I refresh this, as you can see, this is a file now. So and let's just change this as, let's say, and image. Okay, this is an image. So if I click on this, I can choose a file from my computer. Okay, and I can enter any file, any type of file. So that data, any type of file that is entered from here, the validation will actually test whether this is an image file or not, or image file meaning it has a .jpg or .jpeg extension or not. So for example, I will try to do a PDF, let's say. So if I open a PDF, this will not be accepted in the validation if I validate it as an image. So how can I validate it as an image? So if I go to the code and see here, so let's say this is, let's set the rule as, let's change this rule and set I set the name as image, right? So if I set the name as image, and now I want to set it as what? I want to set it as required, and then I want to set it as image, right? This was what was required here, image. So validation root is image, rule is image jpg, png, bmp. I can set it as, let's say, jpg, png, jpeg, etc. Okay, or bmp. So if the image is of these types, only then this input that I'm taking from here, this will be accepted, otherwise it will be rejected. So if I try to submit this form, let's say I try to submit this, yeah, the image field must be an image. Remember I entered a PDF file, so PDF file will not be accepted, only an image file will be accepted. If I enter, let's say I enter an image now, let's say this one, let's say. Okay, so I entered image because it's .jpg part, the validated part. Okay, so if I resubmit it again, as you can see, it shows the success. That means the form has been successfully submitted. This is how you can test whether the image is of image type like .jpg, .png, .jpg, etc., and not other type of files like PDF or something else. Now I'll focus on another validation rule, which is MIME types. So if I go to MIME types, click on this, as you can see, MIME types, to explain. So it says this file under validation must match one of the given MIME types. So what are MIME types? Some examples of MIME types are like this. For example, if you are uploading a video file, so it has MIME types like video AVI, video slash AVI, video slash MPEG, video slash QuickTime, etc. So these are some samples of MIME types. So for example, if I want to upload a video, I gave a demo. Let's say I want to upload a video. So before doing that, I just want to change the name to video and change this name to video. Okay, so let's say video. I want to upload the video. Okay, so this is the video, and if I choose a file, for example, if I choose a file, this has to be of the given MIME types of videos. For example, if I want to add an mp4 type video, then it has to include mp4. So how can I do that? If I go to the server side and go to here, so let's say this is a video, right? And let's give it a video. So it has to be what? It has to be MIME types, and the given MIME types is what? Let's just remove this video. Let's say mp4. I want to add mp4 video, or let's just try with this. Let's just in the validation rules, as you can see, a video slash AVI. Let's just copy 3 of them and try to add mp4 video. Then let's see if that accepts or not. So these are the 3 video types that are accepted: video slash AVI, video slash MPEG, and video slash QuickTime. So if I try to add an mp4 file, video slash mp4 type or .mp4 type file, that MIME type will not be accepted. So if let's try this to add, let's refresh this, and let's try to add an mp4 file. Go to documents. Let's say I pick an mp4 file. Let's say this one. This is a .mp4 file. So let's just try to add this. So let's see. So the video field must be of a type. These are the 3 types that are accepted. Okay, these are the 3 video or MIME types that are accepted. Outside these 3 types, other video files like .mp4 files will not be accepted. So now if I add, let's say, video slash mp4, now if I try to submit the form again, let's say I submit this .mp4 file, so now this will accept. So the validation rule is now accepting the video that is of the accepted, that is from the accepted MIME types, which is video slash mp4, and that's why there was this success message in here. So this is how you can test MIME types that I wanted to highlight in this video. Now I want to focus on a very special type of validation rule. So if I select enum, as you can see, the enum rule, if I read the definition, so the enum rule is a class-based rule that validates whether the field under validation contains a valid enum value. So what is a valid enum value? So in order to understand what is a valid enum value, we have to briefly understand what is enum or enumerator. So enumerator is a type of data structure that can be used in a class. So if I made this test class where this is a test enum, or a very simple type of enumerator, which has three values from 3 cases. So this enumerator contains these 3 values. So enumerator is basically used to test special type of values that is not changed very often, and that can be used to verify user like statuses. Like for example, a user is requesting a resource from the client side to the server side. So I can check whether making the request, that status of the request is pending or active or archived, etc. let's use this example in the demo. So if I go to my file, so as you can see, I have a select option where there are three options here. I have a select type form input. So there are three options here: pending, active, and archived. So if I go to the form, there is a select option with three values. Only one value is accepted. Okay, so let's just use enum here, a new enum, and there is three values here, and if I select one value and submit, that value will be tested in the validation rule. Okay, so let's test this enum rule. So in order to test the enum rule, this is enum values, right? The name attribute is in the select option is enum values. So I'll test this input from the form here. I'll test this input here, and I'll use enum to test it. So how can I do this? In order to do this, I have to use this class, which is illuminate validation rule. So in order to test this, I can do what is, I have to create an array and rule and enum. This will test a enumerator which I want to test. I want to test this enumerator that I wrote here that accepts any of the three values. So if I use this will accept any of the three values: pending, active, or archived. So if I now accept, let's say I give active, this will be successful. If I give pending, this will also be successful. If I give archived, this will also be successful. So any of the three values is accepted. Now if I don't want all those three values to be accepted, only specific value to be accepted, let's say I want only active to be accepted. So what I can do here is I can use the only method to accept let's say test enum, and the value is what? Active. Okay, so only this value will be accepted. So now let's test this out. So let's refresh this. Now if I select pending or archived, it will not be accepted, but if I select active, this will be accepted. So let's try with archived. Let's say if I want to submit this, there is a validation error thrown, which is the select enum values is invalid. So let's say I try pending will not be accepted. So now if I refresh this again and try active, this will be accepted, because as you can see, there is a success message, because I used the input enum values. Only this active value is accepted from this enumerator class, this value active that I selected here from here, active. So this is how you can or use enum rule to validate enum type of values. Now I'll focus on another very interesting validation rule, which is called JSON. So if I go to JSON, it says the field under validation must be a valid JSON string. So whatever I'm inputting here, it has to be a valid JSON string. So what is a valid JSON string? So if I go to Google and let's say string to JSON converter. Now this is an example of a valid JSON string, where there is an object with a key and value, and this object is represented as a string in quotations. Okay, so this is a valid JSON string. So I have an input, a text input, where I can input a string, but I'll input the string as a valid JSON string, both as a valid JSON string and a non-valid just string, to test whether the validation works or not. So I have the name attribute, which is JSON. It is JSON here. So this will be this validation required JSON. Required is obviously given because I want to record it, but JSON, this is the validation which will check. This validation will check whether the input is actually a valid JSON string or not. JSON string. So this is a plain string. Let's say hi, this is Saif. This is a plain string. Okay. So if I try to submit it, the JSON field must be a valid JSON string. So it has to be a valid JSON string. That's why this validation error is being thrown. So now if I enter in this way, this is a key which is called greet, and the value is hi, this is Saif. Okay, so this is represented as a valid JSON string. So if I submit this is accepted because it is a valid JSON string. So when I enter the input, this will be interpreted as a valid JSON string. So this is how you can validate JSON strings or you can validate strings which are either valid JSON or invalid JSON string. Now that we have discussed the 4 validation rules, I want to briefly explain some of the use cases, the practical use cases that might be used in validation rules. So I asked ChatGPT this question, that can you provide some practical use cases for the enum, MIME types, image and JSON validation rules in Laravel. Provide one practical use case for each rule. So what did it respond? Here are practical use cases for each validation rule in Laravel. So the enum rule, for the enum rule, the use case is when you want to ensure that the input value is one of the constraints defined in a PHP enum or enumerator. So for example, let's say you have a user type enumerator with values like admin, editor and subscriber. So a user type or a user role where the role or type is, let's say, admin or editor or subscriber. So you can use a user type enum to use these values, admin, editor and subscriber. So this is one use case where you can use the PHP enum or the enumerator or the enum rule, validation rule in Laravel. So what is the use case for MIME type rule? So one use case is when you want to validate that an uploaded file is of a specific MIME type. So for example, validating a user upload, if you want to upload a user in a specific format, let's say .mp3 or .wav format for a music upload system. Okay. So if you want to upload a music system, so you have only accept .mp3 and or .wav format. So you can use MIME types rule. So for the image rule, the use case is when you want to validate that the uploaded file is an image. So you want to validate, for example, you want to upload your profile picture. Let's say you want to upload your profile picture and you have to make sure that the profile picture is of these types, JPEG, PNG, etc. So this is of one use case of image rule. Say for example, you have a you want to upload profile picture in specific formats. So for the JSON rule, the use case is when you expect the input to be a valid JSON string. For example, validating a request field contains a valid JSON string for storing user preferences. So for example, if you want to receive API requests with JSON encoded data, when you want to receive API requests with JSON encoded data, this rule can be applied. So example is validating that a request field contains a valid JSON string for storing user preference. You can validate the JSON string data. That's why you can use the JSON rule in this use case, which is storing user preferences. By now you already have a good idea about the 4 validation rules that we have covered. So in the next video I'll focus on some different type of Laravel tips, so stay tuned for that.